Welcome back to Echo Ridge. Today, I think we need to get towards the next level of research and maybe put some dupes into some suits. We've now explored the entirety of the map. I did a little digging around off camera just so I can sort of plan what the next steps for the colony were. And the long and short of it is, I'm kind of undecided. Everything's sort of working right now. We have a bunch of nectar that we could use for a giant cooling loop to go in and around the colony. We have a sustainable source of ethanol. In fact, so far it looks like the seals are providing plenty to maintain all the plants that we need for the mammoths. In turn, the mammoths are providing us lots of reed fiber. We're up to 132 units. And we have the phloxes providing us with dirt and a sustainable source of wood. All of our oxygen's being taken care of. One quick note is notice that the carbon dioxide levels are dipping down, and that's because the geyser's been dormant, but it's coming out of dormancy in 16 cycles, so we have nothing to worry about. In fact, we're up to over 40 tons worth of oxalite. Every once in a while I come scooping here just to see the giant piles stacking up. I did dig up the bottom 2 rows just to save ourselves some duplicate labor. I'll probably plant them again once I have access to solid control and my grubby little hands on the conveyor receptacle. And that way I can automate the delivery of ice, which will significantly reduce how much time the duplicates need to spend in here. But speaking of all that ice, considering that we have an infinitely sustainable source up here in the space biome, which is then providing us all the water we need through the ice liquefier, of course the only reason we need water is for research, I feel confident that I could just hit fast forward on this colony and it would survive thousands of cycles without me doing anything. We don't even have a problem with heat anymore, thanks to all the wonderful minus 20 degree oxalite that keeps spinning around the colony. But the end goal of the colony still stands, and I want to unlock the achievement for reaching full steam ahead, which means we're going to have to deal with this whole monstrosity, and there's a lot more tech that we're going to need before we can do that. Speaking of which, it's time to get into materials science research, so we will unlock it up to this point here, giving us access to some rad bolt generators. And in this colony, I think we're going to be going with wheezeworts. We have 3 here, 1 here, and a pair here, for a total of 6. To double check, I can just turn on the radiation overlay, and you can see all the sources of the radiation on the map. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I don't... Oh, there's one up here too. And all we'll need is some phosphorite, 4 kilos per cycle, and thanks to the mammoths laying their mammoth patties, and then the patties being crushed here at the rock crusher, we have a sustainable source of phosphorite too. Now for radiation research, I thought it would be helpful, since there's going to be so many wheezeworts, to put it around an area that is producing some heat. In this case, the mammoths are warm boys, and although the squash plants are still sitting at between minus 19 and, minus 20 degrees, we don't have to worry about it too much. But I did figure it would make sense to put them here. Might as well keep using our wonderful snow tiles, and I'll also get all of this picked up. Our first pot of the day is going to give us another 150 kilos worth of lime, although we're sitting at a total of 690. And that's because I haven't really started steel production. The brine in this tank is sitting at a half a degree, but until I figure out what I want to do with this brine, in the long term, I need to make sure that I don't heat this pool up too much. Ooh, our ethanol stores are getting a little low. Fluffy little seals, I need you to make more ethanol, please. All right, it does look like we are getting some excess here at, 160 kilos? Maybe we reduce the amount of mammoths that we're maintaining to, say, 2 mammoths, and that way I can dig up 4 plum squashes. All right, who's the oldest? 150? 151. You're the big winner. You get to go live over here by the eggs. And now with that surplus, I can take the overflow and send it all the way over to the ethanol tank. I mean, it's not a clean system, but it will help fill this tank back up. That reminds me, our materials study setup is going to require a lot of power. This line here is being used in our aloe vera farm. This one here is for the oxalite production. This last one, where are you going? Oh, you're the main part of the base. Why do rad bolt generators have to be so power expensive? 480 watts. I guess the intent is to make sure that you have a mature power setup before you start putting in rad bolt generators. Which also reminds me, I'm going to have to figure out what I need to do with this polluted water as well. I suppose we'll file that under a future Echo problem. Right now, the mission of the day is material study. Oh, I should probably move these over one so I can make them into a lab. All right, here's one here, one there, and then we'll put our Wheezeworts for our radiation generation over here. Now, when I do this, I like to make sure that the duplicants don't need to come over here. And we do that by using an auto sweeper system that'll be able to grab the phosphorite to feed all the Wheezeworts. I'm not sure if this is the right size though. Maybe one more? We'll put this here. We'll put a nice little storage bin here and load up all the phosphorite. And then we have some planter boxes. We'll make them nice blue since it's nice and cold. Actually, I don't want to use planter boxes. What am I doing? I should be using farm tiles. That way I can lower this a little bit. All right, that's much better. In fact, if I move this over one, I can put the storage bin here, and then this will be a door that will have some access control on. In fact, we'll have it up here. That way the rad bolts can still go through, and will prevent the duplicants from coming in. Now time to dig up some Wheezeworts. There's 1, 2, 3. And now that we're getting access to a ton of sleet wheat, we did start making frost buns, and the duplicants have been liking it a lot better. And along with the omelets, they are a standard +2 type food, which is giving us a 4 morale. Although I would like morale a little bit higher. And since we have such an excess amount of wood, maybe we can start putting some wood blocks in. Now, the big disadvantage of the wood blocks is, well, they only provide a decor of 4 with a radius of 4 tiles. I mean, even the sculpting block gives you a decor of 5. The best is the metal block, which gives you a decor of 20 and a radius of 8 tiles. But that uses a lot of metal. The nice thing about the wood block, though, is they only take up 1 tile, as opposed to your smallest blank canvas, which takes up 4. So if you look at it that way, considering the decor on this 4-tile blank canvas is only a +10 and a radius of 6, well, in that same spot, you can get 4 wooden blocks. I mean, you'd have to actually build all 4 of them, which might look a little silly, but, I mean, let's try this out. I'm sure it's going to be ridiculous, but definitely not the most ridiculous thing we've ever done on this channel. We'll give each duplicant their own. The asymmetry in this room is going to drive me absolute nuts. So let's just fill in the whole thing. That's a little better. And thanks to our newest dupe, Alyssa Alcaraz, we do have the Masterworks decorating skill, but it will take her a little bit. Since she's only one decorator, now we've put up a ton of wood blocks. Also just realized this is not going to work because the auto sweeper cannot see the storage bin. But what if I went looking for the storage tile? It's under solid management, and we are a ways away from getting data analysis research. So, 2 ugly doors it is. Now I'm going to throw caution to the wind. I think by checking out this current load fluctuate a little bit, that if I use 2 rad bolt generators, I might be able to stick it on this line. We'll see. It may not end up working out very well, but we'll give it the good old try. As the duplicants are filling up the storage bin, they dropped off 20 tons of phosphorite. So I wanted to check, and we have over 56 tons. I have no idea. Oh, it's this here. So the map comes with a bunch of phosphorite anyways. You hear that, Bamas? We don't even need any of your... Now, just because you have all that phosphorite doesn't mean you want to waste it. And if we're not actually generating or needing to generate any rad bolts, well, we don't need to feed the Wheezeworts. So the same system that's going to turn these rad bolts on and off is going to be the same system that we use to turn off the auto sweeper, which will also prevent the Wheezeworts from being fed. Actually, I think the duplicants will still be able to feed this Wheezewort through the door. So I'm going to build the door right here. And that way they can reach in to fill up the storage bin, but they can't reach the Wheezeworts themselves. Now, before I power these rad bolt generators, I want to make sure the reflectors are in place. We're going to need one that's in the top row, and that way the duplicants aren't as likely to get hurt. And then this one's going to send it down to here, and this one's going to send it down to here. Now, you don't have to use 2 material study terminals. We are going to, for the simple reason that the second material study terminal acts as an overflow, and I'll go over that here in a minute. Speaking of which, how much radiation are we getting? 1,252 rads, so that'll be 125 rad bolts per cycle out of that one, and 119 out of this one. Our diggers sure are taking their time getting this last Wheezewort. The material study terminal actually has 2 pieces of automation. One is an output, one's an input. The input controls whether or not the building's enabled. This is not the one we want to use. It's actually the output that we want to tap into, because it'll send a green signal whenever the rad bolt storage is full. Well, when it's full, we don't need to be generating any more rad bolts. And the way we turn things off is by using a red signal. So we're going to flip that green using a NOT gate. Then we're going to come through these doors. Oh, that's ugly. I'm just going to use an automation bridge. And then right into both rad bolt generators and the auto sweeper. Additionally, when this material study terminal is full, we do not want this rad bolt reflector to send the rad bolts down. We want it to be bypassed. So we'll tie into this rad bolt reflector. So the rad bolts, in other words, any excess of the 100 rad bolts stored in the material study terminal, will bypass this reflector, go into this one, which will then serve as sort of a rad bolt buffer tank. Speaking of which, let's point these down. Point this one to the right. Point these ones to the right as well. Perfect. I think we can go ahead and start these up. Now, right now we have it shooting rad bolts at whenever it has 50. And I think that's going to be fine. What's going to end up happening is this is going to shoot 50. By the time it gets over here, it's going to be a little less. This one's also going to shoot 50. So this material study terminal will only have, say, 96 in it when the duplicate comes over here and starts working. But the good part of that is as the duplicate's working, these rad bolt generators will send in another 50, which might help keep the duplicate there doing the material study without it actually running out of rad bolts. Now, I also want there to be some lights in here. We'll use the lab lights because why not? Then I'll check the point of interest tile, which is right here in the center. And despite where the duplicate's actually working, they will be standing right here, which means I can put some weight plates right here, something like that. And then we'll tie these in with some automation as well. That way we're not wasting too much power. If the duplicate's not in here actually working, well, we don't want the lights turning on. This portion of the system here is all done, so we do not want the duplicates to be able to go left through here. And that reason is twofold. One, well, there's way too much radiation in here. It would end up hurting the duplicates. But also, when we do end up turning the Weezeworts off, well, more precisely when they run out of phosphorite and we have the auto sweeper off, we don't want the duplicates to come in there and waste our phosphorite by turning the Weezeworts back on. And it looks like the first rad bolt delivery dropped off 49. Both of them are dropping off 49, so we have 98 rad bolts in here, which means I can start queuing up some of this glorious tier 3 research. Now notice the material study terminal here is full because the duplicate hasn't came and started the research yet, and the rad bolt generators have been disabled, as has the auto sweeper. Now granted, it's going to take a little bit because the farm tiles store a little bit of phosphorite, but after about 2 cycles, considering the Weezewort takes 4 kilos worth of phosphorite per cycle, these will all turn off. Unless, of course, we're in the process of using all the rad bolts. Meanwhile, on the other side of the colony, Alyssa's still at it. We have a bunch of little designs in here. The backside of a puffed, the backside of a pip, the backside of a vole. I'm starting to get a theme here. The championship trophy, nicely done. Oh look, it's another backside. This one's a Dreco. I suppose I could start using some more drywall too. I don't think I want to use wood panels. We have wood everywhere already. Maybe some nice ice panels? We'll make them out of granite to get the decor bonus. It'll be like the dupes are living in an igloo. Okay, admittedly, I may have went overboard. This is probably going to look like Mammoth Patty, but we're going to work with it. Here's a great example. Let me cancel this so we can see it better. Notice Luke is standing over here, yet that weight plate was activated. And that's because of that tile of interest. Whenever a dupe is interacting with a building, they're always actually sitting in the tile of interest, no matter what the animation looks like. And the way you can figure out a tile of interest is just selecting a building and then moving your mouse around. The tile that the mouse is sticking to, in this case on the supercomputer, its center bottom, makes this tile the tile of interest. Okay, our ethanol plan did not work. In time, we're out of power. Now our colony actually doesn't require a whole lot of power, but it makes sense that we probably should still turn this on. So what I think temporarily I'm going to do is just deconstruct this, and that way we get 800 kilos worth of ethanol quickly, and then they'll drop it off over here in the bottle emptier. I just realized since the pump is out of power, it's not going to be able to pump more ethanol in. Where's this line? I also have this nice tank down here. I should probably start grabbing it as well. And of course, I'd already removed this pipe, but we'll go ahead and build it more. It's not like the duplicants are building anything else right now, other than 4,000 drywall tiles. I just noticed we have another lumen quartz in here. Forgot about that little guy. Ooh, yeah, the lack of power does really impact our ethanol and nectar production. No ethanol is being made right now because our little seals can't drink. And they can't drink because the bonbon trees aren't growing nectar because there's no light. Let me turn this on a quick 9. Hopefully somebody will come drop it off. And everything down here is dead as a doornail, so I'm going to have to use a quick manual generator to jumpstart this. There we go. Now we can deconstruct the manual generator. Wait, where are you going? Nope, apparently we're out of power again. Okay, that should be enough ethanol to backstop it. So yes, we can deconstruct this now. And now I will put the liquid reservoir back, and hopefully this time we'll have enough ethanol until we get the 5 tons saved up to keep the plum squashes fed, and then after the 5 tons it'll start overflowing over to this tank here. And I am not going to run power all the way over there, or am I? I guess it wouldn't be so bad from over here. We have a ton of iron left. Let's see how much we have after we do this nonsense. 0. Which means it's time to queue up some more iron. I had such good plans today. Well, we're out of ethanol again. This is not going well. We're almost done with this little setup here, but I'm going to have to jumpstart it with a manual generator again. There was something like 800 kilos worth of ethanol, and the petroleum generators drank it pretty quick. And considering I'm already up to, what is this, 5, almost 9 tons worth of nectar, maybe I should get another spigot seal system going. Or maybe we should actually start using the geothermal heat pump. I could take all that brine, pump it in the geothermal heat pump, it'll turn into steam, and then we can use steam generators. That might not be a bad idea. I mean, the ultimate objective is getting this one cleared, but there's no reason why we can't start by using some power. I think that's what we'll end up doing next episode, because while this ethanol will last us a little bit, I don't think the excess that we're getting from the spigot seals is going to be enough to run the petroleum generators long term. Apparently something has changed with the buffer tanks. I know I've done this before, using the inputs as an overflow, but something's not quite right here. Maybe it's because there's no output? I don't know, we'll just end up doing it this way instead. Ethanol's flowing again, disasters are averted, and that's about all we have left here. I'll do a mop for the rest of it, and this is gonna have to last us until we get another power source online. Now, we could always go with ethanol distilleries because we do have a renewable source of wood, but I don't think that's the direction we want to go in this colony. Like I said earlier, I'd really like to build something around the geothermal heat pump. I sort of ran out of time this week. On Tuesday, what was that, August 20th? I spent all day fanboying over the Civilization 7 news. And today I felt a little bit under the weather, so I'm sort of muscling through it just so I made sure to have at least one video out this week. So let me know what you thought about this video and about our materials science setup in the comments below. You know, for engagement, it always helps. And until next time, much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.